Given how boring and uneventful the year of 2016 was, it's a good thing we had all these video games coming out to keep things exciting. There's a lot to talk about, so I'm just going to jump right into my 2016 Year in Review. Forza Horizon 3 came out this year with Microsoft's new Xbox cross-platform stuff, and as much as I love the game, they did a god-awful job of porting it to the PC. I think they eventually patched it, but by that time I was long done with it, and I feel like I was robbed of the polished experience that game deserves. It's a lot of fun and looks great, but playing a racing game with an inconsistent frame rate is not ideal. Remember Dark Souls 3 came out this year? I feel like a lot of people have kind of forgotten about it, but it was one of the best games of the year. I know the Souls formula has been around for a while now, and maybe some people are getting burned out, but I thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. Gameplay-wise, it's the best entry in the series, and it hits all the right spots in the rest of the formula. I'm still looking forward to what From Software comes out with next. Hitman did have perhaps the best cinematic trailer I've ever seen for a game, but I don't think anyone actually expected the game itself to be any good. After Absolution, I wasn't ready to trust another Hitman game, and their decision to make this entry a series of episodes instead of a full game had me nervous. It turns out their episodic structure works perfectly by encouraging replayability on each map, and the game itself is just a ton of fun. Some of the maps are hits and some are misses, but overall I was really impressed with Hitman, and I can't wait for the next season of episodes. Jonathan Blow, who you may recognize as the creator of Braid, made a puzzle game this year that kind of blew my mind. The Witness takes a very simple puzzle format and expands upon it to an extent that I couldn't have imagined going in. And it's all couched in a beautiful setting that rewards looking at things from multiple perspectives. There's a lot more going on in this game than meets the eye, and I don't want to spoil anything, so I'll just leave it at that. I wanted there to be something more to the story behind this setting, but I cannot recommend this game enough. Please play it, even if the puzzles seem utterly dull to you. Another game that kind of blew my mind this year is Superhot. This game is all about style and goes some places with a story that I did not expect. It's very short and packs every moment with so much fun and craziness and just leaves you wanting more. They also came out with a VR version that looks completely insane. I can't wait to try it out. Racism. 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 I was cautiously optimistic about the theme of Deus Ex: Mankind Divided tackling the issue of augmented people being separated from society, but the way they went about it comes across like the game was a class project for 7th grade US history. There's no nuance, it's overly simplistic and barely attempts to explore the subtle ways racism exists and evolves in society. Luckily, there's a lot more to the game than those themes, and most of it is done pretty well. The striking style and tense atmosphere of Human Revolution has been lost, but the core gameplay is retained and improved. If you liked the first one, you'll probably like this one too. There's nothing more relaxing after a long day at your boring, soulless job than playing a game where you quit your boring, soulless job to go live a simple life out in the country. Stardew Valley is a chill pill in video game form. Wake up, take care of your crops, go into town to buy supplies and do whatever else you want, go to bed, and repeat. You'll lose hours playing this game and you'll feel comfy as hell doing it. Alternatively, you could come home after a long day at work to play a game where you're a man building a car from scratch in his garage in 90s era Finland. My summer car can be easily dismissed as YouTube Let's Player bait, but I genuinely love what this game is going for. The level of obsessive detail put into each part of the car is absolutely insane, and it feels good to finally get the car together and get the engine running. The game is not for everyone, but something about it clicks with me in a way that makes me a little worried for my sanity. The creators of Journey made a new game this year called Abzu, taking you deep into the sea in a short but visually stunning adventure. The soundtrack is done by Austin Wintory again, and the whole game comes together in a very tight, atmospheric, emotional experience that will remind you a lot of Journey, but is still unique enough for me to recommend to anyone. You know exactly what you're getting into with Abzu, but that doesn't make it any less impactful. Firewatch is a narrative game that puts you in the shoes of a man alone at an outpost in the middle of the woods, literally running away from his responsibilities back home. I think the story in Firewatch is fine, although it does have some issues, but the game's real strength is how it immerses you in the setting and plays with your emotions. The way I was constantly on edge reminded me of being alone in the forest in real life, and I don't think that's easy for a game to accomplish. In retrospect, they play some tricks with the story that don't hold up very well under scrutiny, but I didn't notice them at the time and really enjoyed myself. It was a good game. I guess you've probably heard of Overwatch. Blizzard has figured out a way to make bad video game players feel good about themselves by hiding any indication that they might actually suck at the game they're playing. I'm not sure writing the line between casual and competitive shooters really works for me. It's a fun game and all, but I just find myself thinking about how much more fun I had with Team Fortress 2 back in the day. And if I want a competitive shooter, Counter-Strike and Rainbow Six Siege fill that role better. Plus, I'm not really sold on the whole art style or vibe they're going for. It's just kind of annoying. Siege technically came out last year, but it was a December release and it took them several months to get the game in a good enough state to actually play in any competitive way. It still has some major issues, but it's the only shooter of its kind and it honestly does a pretty good job of providing the experience they're looking for. It's just too bad the developers can't do anything about how fucking awful Uplay is. The game is good, but it could be great, especially if it weren't published by Ubisoft. And if you want a great single-player FPS, feast your eyes on Doom. After having a very badly received multiplayer beta, Bethesda decided to hold review copies of Doom until the day of release, which made me feel like my skepticism of this reboot was accurate. Then it came out, and somehow it was actually kind of amazing. It's great looking, the gameplay is fast and fun, the writing is way better than it has any right to be. This is the first good single-player campaign of its kind since Valve stopped making Half-Life games. I'm not saying it's a must-buy, but if you're looking for a good FPS campaign and you're sick of aim down the sights bullshit, check out Doom. Virtual reality! That's right, folks, the future is finally here. VR is a thing now, and because I'm a crazy person, I bought a Vive. There's been a lot of negativity about VR and how it's a gimmick like 3D TV or Kinect, but I just don't understand how anyone could say that after giving it an honest try. Yes, it's janky and hard to set up, and I can't exactly recommend that anyone spend that much money for a headset right now when most of the software that's out is complete shallow garbage at ridiculous prices. But there are a few things that I think make it worth getting if you have $800 just lying around. Arguably the best VR experience is actually free. Rec Room throws you into a virtual space with other players and a good variety of things to goof around with. That's what sets it apart from other VR social experiences. Having plenty of things to do keeps you active and gives you something to focus on instead of just staring at the other people around you. There's something about interacting with people while being able to see what they're doing with their hands and where they're looking that is unlike anything else I've done in video games. It's pretty surreal. Even more surreal is being able to shoot those other people with guns. Onward is a small-scale VR military simulator. There's really not too much to say about it except that it's pretty crazy. It also proves that we don't really need all this teleport bullshit that's supposed to prevent you from getting nauseous in VR. Moving around with a thumbstick is a little disorienting at first, but it's fine. I haven't had a chance to play a lot of Onward yet, but what I have played proves that it's about as wild as you would expect this kind of game to be in VR. Cockpit games are one of the main things that make VR worth it for me personally. Existing games like Elite Dangerous, DCS, and racing simulators easily transition into VR and provide a much different experience even when you're used to the game you're playing. One that came out this year is House of the Dying Sun. It's a short and simple space combat game that just really nails its style and is a lot of fun to play. I wish there was more content because what little there is so good. So I have to admit, when I set out to make this video, I was nervous because I felt like I hadn't played all that many new games in 2016. I missed out on a ton of big releases like Battlefield 1 and Titanfall 2, Uncharted 4, Final Fantasy, whatever, even The Last Guardian, which was miraculously released right at the end of the year. There's also plenty of smaller releases that I haven't gotten the chance to play much of, like Fury and Hyper Light Drifter and Let It Die. But as I started writing down what I had played, I realized just how many quality games came out this year. There weren't many big hitters like last year's The Witcher 3, but there were plenty of good, solid releases that kept me busy even if I didn't know it at the time. And there were even a few things I didn't mention. I played Abduction, which is a legitimately good successor to Myst by the same developers, but I didn't finish it. I got a refund for Thumper, which really disappointed me after I heard so much positive buzz about it. I played Valhalla, which isn't really a game, and Google Earth VR, which is even less of a game, but completely blew me away. Yeah, it turns out 2016 was a real busy year, even when you ignore the bullshit I avoided talking about, like No Man's Sky. Seriously, please shut up about No Man's Sky. But more importantly, have a happy new year. I'll see you in 12 months.